Yeah, I'll always be a metalhead. Nothing can take that away from me.
Right.
I mean, not jail, not people, not religion, not anything. I'll always be a metalhead, 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 metalhead. Metalhead leads you all life.
You're listening to the Great Metal Debate Podcast.
Greetings, metalheads. Welcome back to another episode of the Great Metal Debate Podcast. I'm Xander, and today we're going to be talking about the second coming of Kvaen with their newest album, The Great Below, which came out on March 25th. Kvaen is a very special type of Swedish melodic black metal project, as it is performed all by one man named Jakob. I was first introduced to this guy back in 2020 with his groundbreaking debut, The Funeral Pyre. The Funeral Pyre was a smash hit for music critics and elite underground metal lovers like myself. In fact, The Funeral Pyre was my personal favorite album of that year. I was blown away that there was finally a one-man black metal act that doesn't sound like it was recorded on a 2006 Nokia phone. So let's go ahead and begin dissecting each new song track by track. The first song is called Cauldron of Plagues. I love how the first 1 second of this song is silent. Then 2 seconds in, we hear Jakob breathe in through his mouth before unleashing a long black metal scream by the third second. It really lets the listener know that he has once again poured maximum effort into vocal delivery. If it's in the middle of your work shift and you're about to fall asleep while standing up, that should jolt you wide awake. Of course, the rest of the song is exactly what you would expect from Jakob, a specific tone to his raspy vocals that should be very recognizable to true fans. The next song on the album is the title track, The Great Below. It starts off with some finger tapping on the low end of the guitar neck that proceeds with some palm-muted rapid single string plucking. This all takes place before the main galloping riff that makes up the majority of the song. Majority being the key word, as we have a guest appearance from none other than Jeff Loomis to perform a guitar solo. Those of you who don't know, Jeff Loomis is best known for his bands Nevermore and Arch Enemy. Directly after the solo, the tempo changes slightly in a way that is near impossible to not bang your head. Before we go any further, let's take a moment to appreciate the rhythmic drum track that seems to fall in line beautifully with the rest of the music. The percussion in this really complements the overall sound and serves as a strong foundation for the studio mix. Jakob's bass recordings are audible despite never really hearing it separated from the rest of the instruments. Either way, it's the glue that holds everything together like a strong backbone. While Jakob made nearly an entire album completely by himself, this time around he has quite a few people in the metal scene giving him a helping hand that he truly deserves. In this track, titled In Silence, is anything but silent. It is a loud and extremely fast-paced black metal track that really gets in your face, or in your ears. It's also the longest track on the album, clocking in at almost 7.5 minutes. It begins with an eerie, horror-esque soundtrack complete with heavy footsteps, distant chanting, followed by the human heartbeat. This is when the song picks up with a crystal clean snare drum that has perfect pitch. The song features someone named Nephite, who is the founding member of the Swedish melodic black metal act known as Netherbird. I am unfamiliar with him or his band, but apparently he runs a YouTube podcast much like the one you're listening to right now. After 7 minutes of chaos, you can prepare for total annihilation by track number 4, which is called Damnation's Jaw. The opening riff is an unmistakable black metal riff played in a narrow scale with fast strumming and heavy distortion, which can only be found in this subgenre. If it wasn't clear enough, a hellish screech fades in with it. This song features yet another legendary guitarist for the solo, Mike Weed from King Diamond. Sulphur Fire is the fifth track that introduces the drums slowly but develops into a steady drum roll before double bass blast beats. The rest of the song has a typical jazz-like drum beat, with the blast beats reintroduced periodically. This technique is useful for keeping listeners invested in the song. This time around, Jakob plays his own solo, but the same can't be said for the sixth track, which is entitled In Samvarg. In Samvarg is definitely my favorite new Kvaen song, due to the way it sounds. Something about Jacob's vocals on this one reminds me a lot of the song Black Dragon by Dissection. Though the musical structure is absolutely nothing alike, I can't help but notice the way the vocals sound spaced apart in small bursts. One of those musicians is a guy named Rasmus Rova. After Googling who he was, I still don't know who he is, but I do know that the other guy is Sebastian Ramstead, who is the guitarist for Necrophobic. It's another superb track for sure with a solid melody. Your Mighty Has Fallen is next, one of the few songs on this album where it's Jakob doing everything. It seems as though everything this band touches becomes a masterpiece. The eighth and final song on this record is The Fire Within Him Burns. This one features guest vocalist Matthias Lillmans from the band Fintroll. It's a great way to conclude a highly anticipated release from a single talented musician who can hold his own alongside bands with full lineups. This album as a whole was more than pleasing. However, I do have to admit that the debut seemed to be slightly better. Not because the musical composition or the vocals, but because the first album was all Jakob and nobody else. I think it's cool when bands feature other people from other bands on one or two songs at most. But when nearly every song has someone else on it, it doesn't feel quite as independent. I still very much enjoyed everything in The Great Below, but if I were to give it a score, I would have to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Be sure to show your support by purchasing Jakob's music through the Von Bandcamp page or through his label, Black Lion Records.